President Biden has privately signaled to Democratic House members that he's open to canceling some student debt, which was one of his campaign promises and one which progressives have been pushing him repeatedly to do. Now, it's likely any debt relief would be linked to a borrower's income, a source told NBC News. In other words, it could be pretty modest, but you wouldn't know that from the way some conservatives are absolutely freaking out over this, like Ohio Senate candidate J.D. Vance, who graduated from Yale Law School, but says student debt forgiveness is a, quote, massive windfall to the rich, to the college educated. And Senator Mitt Romney, whose estimated worth is $85 million, he blasted student debt forgiveness as a political bribe. Fox News commentator back in December showed how conservatives even try to make student debt into an us versus them culture war attack.
So people who will ultimately be richer than you are stealing your money to pay for their bad choices. Got it. I sure as hell am not obligated to indulge your academic whims in the form of high tax theft.
People, quote, richer than you? The fact is, the highest levels of student debt are often carried by the people least able to afford college. Black Americans, particularly black women, have the most student debt. They also have the lowest average household net worth, $17,000 compared to 10 times that for white households. So yeah, people richer than you. Joining us is Jared Bass, Senior Director for Higher Education at the Center for American Progress. I was being a little sarcastic there. I hope that came across in the dryness and the monotoneness of my voice there. But Jared, could you please lay out for the folks at home why student debt is considered by many to now be a crisis and how it affects the lives of millions of people carrying high levels of student loan debt?
Thank you, and thanks for having me. So currently there are about 43 or more than 43 million Americans who carry about 1.6 or over $1.6 trillion in student loan debt. This has prevented them from buying houses, from reaching economic security, and there are problems implicated in that, and a lot of it stems from the high cost of college. I think the important thing here is to realize that Democrats are not just student loan borrowers, right? It's not just limited to Democrats. It affects Democrats and Republicans who have student loan debts because they had to borrow to go to college, and they were told that if you borrow, if you go to college, you'll be able to repay your loans. But for so many people, that's not true. We have borrowers who face challenges with delinquency, meaning that they can't pay their loans on time. Also borrowers, many of them Black borrowers and borrowers of color who default at higher rates and face default, even with the addition of new repayment options such as income-driven repayment and public service loan forgiveness programs as well. So there are key and real challenges. In fact, there was a Government Accountability Office report that came out and said that for those who enrolled in IDR, the Department of Education across several administrations, both Democrat and Republican, and the servicers that they contracted with weren't adequately counting those payments. So even after 20 years, even after they thought they were eligible, many people weren't getting forgiveness that they were entitled to. And so this administration, this department has taken steps to rectify some of those challenges, but just highlight some of the concerns, some of the problems that we see within the student loan system writ large.
That is so fascinating because it feels to me like, part of what we need here is we need a lot of clarity and a lot of sunlight put on even this whole system, right? So you're saying that people are paying for 20 years and then it turns out they haven't actually paid off what they thought they did because the system isn't working. What fixes in addition to just canceling debt? That seems like step one. What are the next steps to ensure that this system works better for the people who are borrowing money? Because, you do need it. I don't know when the cost of college is going down, but it doesn't seem like it'll be anytime soon.
So I think you hit the nail on the head. I think it is the cost of college. I think we have to look at both cause and effect. So I think debt cancellation, reforming income-driven repayment is certainly addressing the effects of student loans. But we also have to look at the causes, which are high tuition prices, looking at state disinvestment in higher education, and essentially just the price tag, for a college education. Look, college education still holds major benefits. It is associated with lower unemployment rates. higher salaries, and all that is true. But I think some of that economic potential or impact is certainly limited when we think about the high debt burdens that folks carry. So I think that, in addition to looking at debt relief, we also have to look at strategies to make college more affordable, whether that be through debt-free college, tuition-free college, free community college, or just significantly reducing the cost of college to ensure that folks are getting a high-quality education at a price that they and their families can afford.
Speak to how this is an issue of racial justice, in the sense that Black women carry the most student loan debt compared to other groups. They're highly educated. Speak to how the forgiveness and the cancellation of student loan debt would help those marginalized groups economically.
Yeah, so a lot of this is intertwined with our labor market. It's intertwined with employment discrimination, with wage discrimination, and so a lot of those issues still play out. So you have people who, in order to compete with essentially similarly situated white counterparts, at the BA level, will end up having to take a master's degree and borrow for graduate level debt just to be able to make as much as a white counterpart who has a BA or no graduate level education. And so that kind of creates some disparity, and a lot of students of color actually end up having to get a master's or higher levels of attainment, educational attainment, to compete in the labor market. So that's one way. I mean, we also see that a higher percentage of Black households actually hold more student debt than white households, and that's across income quintiles, I should say. So you'll see higher levels, just across the spectrum. Also higher percentages of, or I should say the percentage of Blacks holding student debt is not in proportion to the number of Blacks who make up, part of the U.S. population. So folks are borrowing, higher than they're represented within the country, and that's a huge issue. That's a huge problem. And so, because in order to tap into educational attainment, in order to tap into educational opportunity, economic opportunity, folks, many students of color, have to borrow in order just to get their foot in the door. So I think we have to look at access too. Debt should not be the way that folks, especially people of color, can access higher education, and that's a huge issue.
Feels like you borrow to get your foot in the door, and then your foot is stuck because you can't move through the door because of the debt. And that is a big problem. Jared Bass, thank you so much for being here. We'll have you back because I think this story is so fascinating, so many implications for the economy. Please stay safe. Hi, I'm Zerlina Maxwell. Thanks for checking out our channel on YouTube. You can see more from Zerlina by clicking any of the videos on this screen, and make sure you subscribe below to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. Thanks for watching.